1 year ago today, Albertans in the city of Fort McMurray were suddenly terrorized by raging forest fires. People ran for their lives, some with little more than the clothes on their backs.
So we lost everything now. We don't have what we have on our backs.
The fires were so vicious and widespread that they could be seen from space. Firefighters from across Canada, the U.S., and South Africa answered the call of their comrades to help stop the deadly fire. On Context, rebuilding 1 year later, a city once ravaged by fires is still Alberta strong. I'm Lorna Dueck.
I'm Sheldon Neal.
And I'm Molly Thomas.
And you're watching Context. TV host and reporter Cheryl Weber was on the ground for a week during the Fort Mac fires. Coming up, the heroic stories of first responders and an update from one of the Fort Mac firefighters today.
My recommendation would be for people that are like pregnant mothers, people with asthma, older people, that they stay away.
Fort McMurray MLA and Wildrose leader Brian Jean's pain for his town and people was palpable while speaking to media last year. Coming up, Brian is with us to share his amazing story of overcoming personal loss and tragedy. Fort McMurray, Alberta rebuilds after the fires. Construction crews work round the clock to get people back into their homes. We'll get an update from a member of the Wood Buffalo Recovery Task Force. Now, over to Molly Thomas with a news update.
Thanks so much, Lorna. Here are the headlines we are watching this week. The Senate Ethics Committee says Don Meredith needs to go. If he is expelled, it would be a first in Canadian history.
He has violated the Code of Ethics in a very egregious manner.
Some senators, like Mike Duffy, have suffered temporary suspensions, but no one has been kicked out of the Red Chamber. Meredith, a well-known Pentecostal pastor, is accused of having sexual relations with a teenage girl. Meredith denies many accusations, though he admits he had sexual intercourse with the woman after she was 18. Now the Senate must vote on the committee's recommendation. Meredith can plead his case one last time before that final vote takes place. Well, it's a scene no hockey lover wants to see, and Sid the Kid is paying the price for it yet again.
Right in the head to Sidney Crosby. Oh boy, he got buried on this play.
After a cross-check to the head, Sidney Crosby is now dealing with his fourth career concussion. The Penguins captain will sit out Game 4 of the Eastern Conference semifinals against Washington this week. The severity of Crosby's concussion is unknown. That diagnosis will determine whether he will lace up those skates for the rest of the season. And as we reflect on the inferno of Fort Mac last year, Eastern Canada is suffering from the opposite problem this year. Floods are causing havoc in Quebec and southern Ontario.
So this is a very serious one, but the municipality is in control. All the people that I've met today, we discussed the situation. Everybody is really at work, hands-on.
As the St. Maurice and Ottawa rivers continue to rise, some residents have already evacuated. Lac Tuc, Lac Saint-Jean, and Gatineau are some of the worst affected areas. Hundreds of homes are also being threatened near Montreal right now. Southwestern Ontario is also feeling some of those effects. Essex and London are dealing with flooding, and heavy rainfall remains in that forecast. And that's the news on our end. Lorna, back to you.
Joining me now from Alberta is Fort McMurray MLA and leader of the Wildrose Party, Brian Jean. Brian is the representative resident of Fort McMurray. His house was destroyed during the tragic forest fire last year. Brian, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
Give us the scene now, today, 1 year later in Fort McMurray. What would we discover?
Well, you discover that I live in the greatest place on the planet, that it's the best place to work, to play, to live in the entire country and the entire world. But right now we are facing some challenges. We, of course, had the major fire last year, and a lot of families right now don't have homes in Fort McMurray. They're wanting to rebuild, but there's very few that have been so far. We've seen some red tape that I believe was unnecessary, but we're starting to see some homes being built all around the community. Myself, in Waterways, I had 4 family members that lost their home within a couple of blocks of my own, and 3 of them have started to rebuild their homes, and it's good to see. They're pretty much the only pieces of infrastructure on those streets, but it's great to see that people are rebuilding and we're reestablishing our lives here.
But your own home hasn't been able to be rebuilt yet. What's held you back?
Well, I've been kind of busy. The NDP government's in power, and of course I was hired by the people of Alberta to be the official opposition and try to remove them as quickly as possible, which I'm trying to do full time. But of course, most of my time is spent outside of my home. I love Fort McMurray, as you can guess, but I just haven't had time to prioritize rebuilding my home here. I, of course, have, since everything that I had in it burned as well, I don't have anything really to store. Frankly, just been too busy. That's it. And for the most part, I will tell you, it's exciting to see the other people rebuild their home. But right now, I've got, I believe, more important things to concentrate on.
Okay. Let's talk about the inner fortitude. Brian, what gets you through this kind of stress of having to help everybody else build, but you can't take time to do your own, and the other losses that you're seeing and dealing with? What's your personal core that's getting you through this?
Well, first of all, it is about the people, and public service is about serving the public, and I've always believed that very strongly. So I get a lot of strength from the stories people tell me about what it means to them to have somebody that has their back. And I've always had their back. I've been in this job for 12 years now, and I always will have their back. But also, of course, my son died 2 years ago, and compared to that, this is nothing as far as my house being destroyed.
Have you got a faith, Brian? Is faith part of this picture of strength?
Well, I have God. I'm a Christian. I believe that my son is in a better place right now. I'm excited about rejoining him in the future. But I do have a task here, and that is, of course, to, as an elected official, make people's lives better. And I'm going to focus on that. I believe that government should focus on fiscal responsibility and, frankly, stay out of people's personal business. Faith is a very important part of my own journey, and it's very important to me. But I believe that many people of many faiths gravitate to accepting the strength that they can find through what they believe in their God.
All right, and a review is being done right now. Is there anything in retrospect that you wish could be handled better?
Oh, certainly. Let's face it, the economy's been very tough on the community of Fort McMurray. We are primarily an oil town, I would suggest almost entirely. And with the economy and the cap on the oil sands production, the carbon tax, the accelerated shutdown of coal, now a 300% increase on our municipal tax level for households here in Fort McMurray, it just seems, from my perspective, that they're kicking us when we're down, and especially relating to the rebuild itself. It took some of us 5.5 to 6 months to actually find out if we were going to be permitted to rebuild our homes where they were destroyed and had actually existed for 50 or 60 or 70 years beforehand.
All right. Well, Brian Jean, thank you very much for this look back, and thank you for the look forward as well on rebuilding Fort Mac. That was Brian Jean, leader of the Wild Rose Party, the MLA for Fort McMurray, joining us from Alberta.
As Canadians think back to the flames of Fort Mac, many wonder if it could have been prevented. Jen Beverly, a professor of wildland fire and agriculture at the University of Alberta, joins me to talk about that. Jen, let's go back to the start. I mean, what caused this massive fire?
Well, the Fort McMurray fire was not that unusual for a spring fire in Alberta. This is a boreal forest ecosystem where fires are quite natural. And it's not unusual to have high-intensity fires that grow to those sizes, 500,000, even 1 million hectare fires are not unusual in Alberta. In the case of the Fort McMurray fire, we had an El Nino over the winter that meant that we had a very mild, dry winter, and that was certainly a contributing factor to the spring conditions, which were extremely dry. And on the day of the fire, on the day of the evacuation, really explosive burning conditions. We use the Canadian Forest Fire Danger Rating System to rate in a qualitative way how extreme conditions are. And it really was extreme right across the province on that day.
So Jen, if you're saying it's very natural, is there any way that we could have prevented it?
Well, I mean, this is a fire-prone landscape, and fires in these areas, they fulfill an important ecosystem function to regenerate the forests and to maintain healthy forests over long time periods. Now, the real dominant natural fire regime in Alberta is caused. I mean, obviously, it's caused by natural causes, lightning, and lightning fires really start to you start to see them happening later in May and throughout the summer months, tapering off in August. So, in some ways, the Fort McMurray fire is a little bit unusual in the sense that it happened quite early before the normal natural fire season, which is caused by lightning. So in the springtime, what happens is we get people-caused fires, human-caused fires, in the window between the snow melt, things drying out, and the vegetation hasn't greened up yet, so there hasn't been that leaf flush that can then cool the forest. So in that window is a fairly narrow time when people-caused, human-caused fires can ignite, and these very dry spring fuels result in receptive conditions where you get fast-spreading fires.
For sure. Jen, I want to ask about this because I think a lot of people in Eastern Canada, they blame the oil sands and its production for any kind of climate change. We talked about El Nino a little bit and how it was so warm last year. Can we fairly link that to Fort Mac or this fire, or is that really too far of a stretch?
Well, most scientists feel that you can't take a single event, a single fire event, and say that was the caused by climate change, and likewise it's hard to link climate change as a large scale process back to a single regional industrial development like the oil sands. I mean, what we know is that climate change is happening, and we are seeing changes to the amount of area that gets burned in Canada annually on average. We're seeing increases in area burned. We're seeing a lengthening of the fire seasons, or longer fire seasons, and that creates more opportunities for fires to ignite and grow to large sizes and have severe impacts.
Right. Jen, we're going to have to stop it there. We are rushed for time, but the landscape is changing for sure, and we really appreciate your perspective today on the show.
Thanks.
All right, that was Jen Beverly, Assistant Professor of Wildland Fire, Agriculture, Life, and Environmental Science at the University of Alberta. Well, besides environmental effects, there are also psychological effects that should not be overlooked when a natural disaster like a fire takes place. You know, Lorna, people often forget about the hidden scars that aren't so evident, like, the ash and the soot that's left behind.
So what do we know about the mental health impact of the Fort McMurray fire?
Well, Lorna, what we do know is that people asking for mental health support in Fort Mac increased by nearly 3,000% from the year before. So take these numbers. That means in 2016, after that blaze, 29,000 requests were made compared to the year before when just 1,000 were made. So people are obviously reaching out and are in dire need of help mentally and emotionally, and so doing the right thing by seeking help, really.
And what are the symptoms? Depression, PTSD, what are you finding?
In some cases, I think doctors are still figuring that out. But one local psychiatrist in Fort McMurray, he surveyed 500 residents, and he found that 13% of that group had PTSD and another 14% had major depression. So these lingering memories of the fire are still affecting people to this day. And I had a chance to visit Fort Mac 5 months ago. We were there in October, and I met this woman, Marjorie, who had lost her home. She had jumped around from city to city, lived out of a trailer for a while, was in a hotel when I met her. And if you ask her in the midst of that, can you tell me about that evacuation day? Her memory is crystal clear. Take a look.
When we come out, the flame was on both sides of the road. It was pretty devastating to have to go through that. And it's all my husband was saying was, please, God, don't let our tires melt, because the flames and the heat was that hot.
You could feel it in the car?
You could feel it in the car.
And those are scary memories, and they don't just disappear.
And so we're learning something here about Canadians in trauma recovery. Is this a pattern that we've got some background from other natural disasters? Is there a fit here?
Well, each year, excluding, let me say, droughts and war, nearly 500 incidents across the globe meet the Red Cross definition of a disaster.
500 every year in our globe, like Fort Mac.
That's right. But for us in North America, I think probably the most glaring example that comes to mind maybe is Hurricane Katrina in 2005. Like we all remember, right?
I was there.
You were there,
Yeah,
so you saw it. You know, people waiting on rooftops to be evacuated, and the slow response that many were upset about because ethnic communities were in those areas and they felt like there was some racist stuff there too. But at the end of it, 2,000 people lost their lives, 1.5 million were displaced. And in one study I looked at, mental health conditions worsened in some areas as time went on. So PTSD in Alabama, Louisiana, and Mississippi rose from 15% just a few months after, all the way to 21% a year in.
So we shouldn't expect people to be over this already
You
in
can't
Fort Mac.
necessarily do that, right? Even with depression levels, they also rose. So, there was also substantive abuse, like substance abuse and, problems sleeping and like illnesses that arose, physical illnesses. So you have to think about Fort Mac right now as well.
What needs to be done? What needs to be done for the people there at Fort Mac?
I think the local Fort McMurray psychiatrist that I referred to before says it best. Dr. Vincent Agyapong from Alberta Health Services. This is what he points out. He says, their support from insurance is good, support from the government is good, but when it comes to psychological issues, people really need family and friends to support them, not only in that emergency when the whole country is talking about it, but they need it long term. They need it a year in, they need it 2 years in, they need it, as their recovery continues.
All right. Well, Molly, thank you very much. Up next, we get an update from on the ground in Fort Mac. Sheldon Neal speaks with Wood Buffalo Task Force member Adam Hardiman.
Here are some of the stories making headlines this week.
Voters turning their outrage into online worldwide trends.
Why healthcare workers kill.
The opioid crisis is a health crisis.
So how do we weed out the noise?
Fake news stories outperform.
Well, this is an issue our next guest is an expert on.
We have a lineup of religious leaders from the Christian, Muslim, and Jewish faith communities.
I'm Lorna Dewitt.
And I'm Sheldon Neal.
You're watching Context Live. In a moment, we speak with a Fort Mac firefighter who takes us back to the very first moments when the fires broke out. But first, to Sheldon Neal with an update from the city on what's happening now.
It was the largest evacuation in Alberta's history, close to 90,000 people displaced, and an estimated $4 billion has been spent on reconstruction. Adam Hardiman is part of the Wood Buffalo Recovery Task Force on rebuilding the city 1 year later. Adam, what does recovery look like on the ground in Fort McMurray right now?
Well, and what's been great, I guess, about the initial piece of this was just the support of Albertans and Canadians, and indeed of people all around the world. I think for the Canadian Red Cross, it was their most successful domestic fundraising campaign in Canadian history. For us, we're not going to be happy until everyone that wants to get back into a new home is back in that new home. But if you look at where we are today and where we were a year ago, recovery is going really well.
Fort McMurray municipal leaders are launching a review into the response to how the fires were handled. Mayor Melissa Blake says there are things in hindsight they would have done differently. What would they have done differently in your estimates?
Well, anytime you go through the largest natural disaster in Canadian history, you're going to look at your response to that event and what could be done differently. We owe that to our residents, we owe that to our neighbors, and we owe that to our colleagues. So we'll take a look at that, and I think it's just doing our due diligence and making sure that we get better for any type of event like this that happens in the future. Certainly our first responders are heroic and they did a great job. But it'll also be more comprehensive than just shortfalls. I think you want to look at what went well, what didn't maybe go so well, what can improve upon, what needs more resources. We're going to look at all those things. We're also going to look at recovery, which was the major task of the municipality over the last year. So be very comprehensive, and the timing is with intent. We wanted to make sure that the province, they have two separate reviews underway. We wanted to make sure that the information gleaned from those reviews, which will be coming out in the weeks and months ahead, can be part of the review that we do. So it's not that we wanted to wait until now, it's that we wanted to make sure we were developing the best ideas and the best information for our residents.
There's so much to unpack, and I really wish we had more time together. Fort McMurray's current population currently stands at about 73,500, or 73,500 rather, which of course is down from 2016 pre-fire federal census numbers. In your estimate, do you foresee perhaps a long-term population shift?
And of course, the thing you have to remember is Fort McMurray, Wood Buffalo always had an element of a moving population due to the nature of the economy. So if you look at our 2015 municipal census, we I think had about 83,000 people, if I'm not mistaken, living in Fort McMurray proper, the Wood Buffalo region, with project accommodations for the oil sands up around 125,000. If you look at, and of course, this is an unofficial estimate because we're looking at things like water usage and electricity usage, where you can get kind of a general idea of how many people might be in Fort McMurray proper. You're looking right now at about 74,000. So, but again, that's an unofficial estimate. So yeah, you are down a little bit. The other thing we have to remember is the economic piece, and the economic downturn has certainly played a role in the community over the last number of years. It's been a very protracted downturn, and we're coming out of it economically. So those things are playing along. But overall, if you look to a more steady growth rate of 1% to 3%, once we get through the construction boom, the economic boom that the rebuild will create, you'll probably end up even in about 5 to 6 years based on current projections.
Adam Hardiman, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you to Canada, thank you to Alberta, and just know that Fort McMurray is coming back strong.
That was Adam Hardiman. He joined me from Fort McMurray, Alberta. I want to now take a look at the really some of the responses coming online and on social media. Let's go to the screens now. Environment Canada bringing something up and saying, on this day in 2016, wildfire began southwest of hashtag, of course, Fort McMurray, which is the hashtag that is trending, forcing the largest wildfire evacuation in Alberta's history. But it's really the riveting photos we're seeing, the billows of smoke, the fire, the long lines of evacuation that really grips those who are taking a look at these photos and much more. I want to keep it looking. This one coming from Iconic Electric. It's actually a company out of Calgary, Alberta, sending their support, saying incredible look at hashtag again Fort McMurray 1 year later, before and after shots. Again, powerful, emotionally driven things you're seeing there before. I want to go to our third and last. This one really caught my attention, really highlighting the strength of the people there 1 year after the devastation of Fort McMurray fire. We remember that we will always be Alberta strong in the face of Alberta, in the face of adversity, rather. For now, that is your social media update.
Right after the break, a broadcast journalist who was in Fort McMurray for a week after the fresh fires broke out. She gives us that story and an update from one of the media's go-to people during the crisis. Stay with us.
Here are some of the stories making headlines this week.
Voters turning their outrage into online worldwide trends.
Why healthcare workers kill.
The opioid crisis is a health crisis.
So how do we weed out the noise? Fake news stories outperform.
Well, this is an issue our next guest is an expert on.
We have a lineup of religious leaders from the Christian, Muslim, and Jewish faith communities.
I'm Lorna Dueck.
And I'm Sheldon Neal.
You're watching Context Live. Well, joining me now is a very special reporter and host, Cheryl Weber from 100 Huntley Street. You were on the ground seeing the people come in from Fort Mac into Edmonton for over a week. I want you to bring us an update on Anthony Hoffman. So let's listen first to your story, and then I want to hear what's happened to him. Let's listen in.
Then the fire kind of put me right on my face, and I was in the position of having my hand out and asking for things, and that never feels good. But what it did was it gave me an understanding of suffering. There's people suffering all over the world for 1,000,001 different reasons. And all of a sudden there's this bridge of relatability. I get it. I know what it's like to hurt. What do you need? What can I do for you? And it creates an authenticity that almost makes charity a little bit more real, if that makes sense. And I'm hoping that other people are in Fort McMurray are seeing the same things, and that therefore going forward, Fort McMurray can be a major hub of generosity and giving an understanding for people who are going through things.
Cheryl, I understand he lost his own home.
So he's fighting, and he lost his family home and his condo, but he didn't find out for 2 days because he couldn't leave the fire to go check it out. And there's this great shot actually that I had of him standing there with Hoffman on his back and his firefighting gear and his hat and looking over the remains of his childhood home. It was just heartbreaking, but it's such a brave man.
Tell me about his quote, because I find it quite iconic. about there's a process going on that's more important at that time for him than the physicality of his home.
Well, there's this moment where he is sleeping at a captain's house because he's homeless, and they get 4-hour breaks just to catch a few minutes of sleep. And the chief said, "Is there anything I can get for you?" And he had to ask for a clean pair of underwear, and it was so humiliating for him. But he said, "I used to give out of a place of self-sufficiency, but now I give out of a place of empathy, and I understand people. There's need all over the world, and I give from a totally different place." And he believes this is going to change Fort Mac. So this great quote, it says, "Fort McMurray is now poised, I hope, in an incredible position of understanding the good that can and will come from the residents of this city in the coming years will be the typhoon that will blow people away because we get it. We know what it means to hurt, to have been there, needing to ask, reluctantly putting your hand out to receive. It's a nuclear blow to your pride and your desire to make it on your own, but maybe that's a good hit to take."
And he talks about it is more important. The stuff that you've lost isn't what God's interested in. It's the process of what's happening to you while you're going through the trauma.
He related, and it was literally, I met him just a few days after he found out he lost everything, and he was relating to the story in the Bible of a man who lost everything. And it was a test to say, if I take everything away, will you still trust God? And he said, this is my test now. So talking to him a year later, he's still in a good place. He said it was a lot harder than he thought, a lot more suffering, a lot more time. He's not rebuilding his family home. But he's still trusting God, and he's talking about character. It's those moments that you make the good choices.
So in this army of volunteers, how engaged was the church? How engaged was the spiritual, the nonprofits, those?
Church was amazing. And the church was suffering as well. I was talking to people from a church who were homeless themselves, and they went to a church in Edmonton that opened its doors, and every day they were volunteering free counseling to anybody who needed to come in and talk. So they don't even know at this point whether they have a home, because most civilians didn't find out for quite a while. So, the firefighters obviously could get there. And so they're homeless, they don't know if they have a home, and they're there just reaching out to the community. And I saw it everywhere. The church rose up, they were fundraising, they were helping, they took people into their homes. And I would say not just the church, but I would say the whole province of Alberta was amazing. Like, to be there during that time did such good things to my heart. You would just see restaurants giving away free food, clothing stores giving away free clothing, signs everywhere, just the generosity. Even when I rented a car when I landed, they gave me all these free upgrades. And I said, why are you doing this? And he said, because the Fort McMurray fire showed us what's important, and it's people. And I said, I've just never had this happen before.
It's people. Wow, that is a real gift that we're starting to reap out of Fort Mac. And the largest ever fundraiser for Red Cross, so it's in Canada, so it's an amazing day. Cheryl Weber, thank you for going to Fort Mac and bringing us back these stories. More great stuff on the web that you can read about these stories, and you can join Cheryl every morning and every evening here on Yes TV on 100 Huntley Street. Well, my thoughts are coming up on the spirit and strength of the Alberta people and what we're learning out of this lesson of the terrible tragedy that happened to Fort Mac 1 year ago. Stay tuned. A national tragedy like we revisited on Fort McMurray today is fortunately rare in Canada. But here's what takes my breath away: the incredible strength and emotional support that have come from the community's recovery should actually spread like a wildfire in Canada. The people of Fort Mac have taught us what caring is. From the amazing professional firefighters and civic workers, churches, schools, neighbors, and an army of volunteers, the practical love and help going on in Fort Mac is breathtaking. When you add it all up, the estimates have been that it's a $9 billion tragedy in homes, lost wages, environmental damage. It gave us a lesson of care for each other that is priceless. And as an expert there observed, insurance is good, government helps, but the most important factor is the support from family and friends. At Fort Mac, as Jesus himself would have demonstrated, the listening ear, a shoulder to cry on, a calm friend makes all the difference. Recovery from any trauma is a long, complex road. Let's not let our patience and caring run out before the job is done. Thanks for joining Context. Bye-bye.